Well, good morning, afternoon, and evening, folks. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to this webinar on All Points North Rural EB-5 project. It's a project that holds significant promise for the future of health and rehabilitation in the United States, and for those seeking to achieve permanent residency through the EB-5 Investor Immigration Program. Our goal today is to give you, one, an initial overview of the business, two, an understanding of a very unique market, three, a good look into the project and how it's progressing, and finally, why it is a high-quality project for EB-5 investors. My name is Suresh Rajan. I'm the founder and executive chairman of LCR Capital Partners. I'm pleased to be hosting this session today with Noah Nordheimer, CEO of All Points North. We're also joined by Jeremy Zacharias, executive president of APN, and Carl Vandermeer, representing the Regional Center and co-manager EB-5 Coast to Coast. If you have questions, you'll see a Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom software. Please enter your questions there, and I will work your questions into our conversation as best I can, or we'll hold a few minutes at the end of the conversation for those discussions. We are recording this event, and we'll make this link available to you in the event you want to share it with a friend or refer back to it in the future. Since we are part of a well-regulated investments industry, I want to take a minute or two to read a disclaimer. This marketing presentation and event do not constitute an offer to sell securities. If you're interested in seeing project investment documents, we ask that you contact LCR or EB-5 Coast to Coast directly so we can confirm you are an accredited investor or the equivalent in your market. We can also then focus the conversation on your individual or family needs. This presentation also does not constitute legal immigration advice. If you would like legal advice, you need to form a contractual relationship with a licensed immigration attorney. LCR works with a number of the industry's best attorneys, and we'd be happy to make a referral. For those of us that are already an investor in this project, we want to give you a firsthand assessment of where All Points North is, including the construction plan and operational developments. We understand the importance of staying informed, and we are committed to providing you with the latest information. For those of you who are considering EB-5 as an investment, we are excited to introduce to you the All Points North project. Located in a rural targeted employment area, this project is a leading behavioral health company near Vail, Colorado. The project has already achieved significant milestones, including Form I-956F approval, project approval from USCIS. Fast I-526 approvals, that's the individual investor approvals, have been coming on 4 months on an average, which is very fast, and presents a compelling opportunity within the EB-5 program. Hi, Noah. Good morning. Thank you for getting up so early out in Colorado. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thanks for having me.
We are very excited to partner with All Points North on this project.
Great.
No, as you know, there's strong momentum around this project already. Quite a few investors are already in, and many are queued up to do so. Beyond immigration, there's the core strengths of the project as an investment that are driving interest. Before we dive in deeper into those specifics, it would be great to start with you. Could you give us a little bit about your background in behavioral health and your experience with EB-5?
Sure. Thank you for having me, and appreciate you guys taking the time to learn more about All Points North and the team. I've been in behavioral health for about the past decade and a half. This is the second company that I've founded in the space. The first company was a company called Concerted Care Group. That company actually utilized EB-5 to expand from a single location to multiple locations, similar to what we're doing at APN. It was a successful EB-5 project, and we took that company to exit back in 2021, I believe. By all standpoints, a successful business, scaled to be one of the largest providers in the state of Maryland, is now continuing to expand into multiple other states. Um, the behavioral health speaks to me from an investment standpoint for a number of reasons. I think I've always led my life by doing well by doing good and finding opportunities to return value to communities, as well as to our investors through a strategic approach. And behavioral health, when you build a scaled business in behavioral health, the exit multiples are significant. They're approaching tech multiples. There's a lot of pent-up demand for the services as well as for the businesses from a private equity standpoint. There are not a lot of uh, I'll say professionalized businesses within our sector. There's a lot, it's a highly fragmented space. So once you get over and above, 20 million of revenue in behavioral health, you're actually considered a scaled business, whereas in a lot of other sectors, you would be kind of small cap. So for all of those reasons, behavioral health really speaks to me. We've built an unbelievable product with APN. Jeremy's showing you here a video of the main lodge, which is adjacent to phase two, just outside of Vail, Colorado. This is 90,000 square foot facility that has every luxury amenity that you could think of. It was converted from what used to be a resort into the behavioral health facility that it is today. Um, it it uh it has performed beyond our expectations, and really, I think, taken a lead position as a behavioral health provider within the United States and abroad. Um, Everything we do is data driven, so our outcomes are what drives us. And we have been in the top 5% of the Acorn Collaboration, who is a independent not-for-profit that tracks several thousand facilities across the US. When you look at our severity adjusted improvement scores, they're more than double that of highly effective providers, almost 20% significant improvement compared to other providers, one of the lowest readmission rates in the country, if not the lowest. And I only say that because I don't have complete sightline to other providers' readmission rates. But industry mean is around 15%. So 4.3 being a fraction of that, we're doing really good work here. How are we doing that type of work? We've built a continuum of care that supports our clients at a lot of different entry points. While the lodge and lodge phase two are really designed for that kind of residential PHP treatment experience where someone comes for anywhere from 30 to 90 days to kind of set a firm foundation. You need a long continuum of care. You need to support people long term to drive that type of outcome. So we stay connected to them through our satellite facilities, through our telehealth platform. We're engaging clients and their families for a really long period of time. And that's why our clients are more successful than other comparable facilities who may only have a single level of care. That's what makes APN unique. We have always approached this from a perspective of what do our clients and families need, and designed our facilities and operations really around those needs. Our Plus division is interventional psychiatry and neurotechnology. This is really where the market's moving. So this is where we're using the latest and greatest technologies and advancements in medicine to further behavioral health outcomes. We're using things like deep TMS, ketamine-assisted therapy. We're probably the only hyperbaric oxygen chamber in a behavioral health setting in the country. It's a very expensive build and investment, one that we are really excited that we have made, and it's been a wildly successful program. And we're now moving into the next phase of growth in behavioral health, and particularly interventional psychiatry, which is plant-based medicine. There's only 2 states within the U.S. That are where it's legal to provide plant-based medicine, and you can receive a license for it, Colorado being the second. We are in the licensure process, and that is going to be a huge part of the momentum going into the phase 2 EB-5 project is plant-based medicine, which we anticipate getting our license sometime in Q1 of 2026.
I think, it's a hell of a facility you built there. I mean, I think a lot of people who don't know much about this industry, it would come as a surprise that the type of investment that's been made in the facility itself.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, you have to keep people comfortable and the demographics that we're serving. Um, it has to feel like the type of place where they would spend time, whether it's their home or their typical hotel they would stay. I think that's really important to engage them and have them stay for 45 or 60 days. Our average length of stay on campus is about 50 days. And to achieve that type of length of stay, I think the sticks and bricks are really important. It's something that other providers may not make the same investment in. And I think when you look at our average length of stay, our average per patient revenue, we're speaking to the audiences that we're serving, right? And who is that? That's professionals, that's executives who work in finance, who work in technology, that's consultants. We have a program for physicians and nurses. We have a contract with the VA where we serve veterans, and we've developed a veteran-specific program. So we're really thoughtful, I think, around the people that we're serving, not just from the sticks and bricks, but the programming. It has to really revolve around them, and everything that APN has done has started with who is our client, what do they need, and what can we do for them that makes it a unique experience and program. Whereas other programs, I think, are really kind of a square peg, round hole, right? They'll put everybody into the same group. And if you're a professional or an executive who works in finance, you can't go to treatment with a bunch of 20 somethings. You won't have a dynamic group. You won't have lived life experiences that you can share, and they don't have similar challenges and stressors. So I think it's a really important component of how APN has built itself. It's really built itself around its clients.
No, that's very interesting. I mean, the demand for the need for this type of facility obviously has been growing for some time. But as you mentioned, your target group that you're serving specifically with this facility is different. How do you see the market for that market growing over time? Is it going to be addressed by a single facility, or do you see growth potential to service that market going forward?
There's pent-up demand. What I will say is, I think as stigma gets greatly reduced, especially here in the United States around mental health, you have more and more people open to getting help. And help looks different for everybody. We have people who are coming in who are actively in addiction and have been for many years, but they're functioning. We have other executives who, I think, as you went through COVID, people really got isolated, right? They were removed from human connection, and we saw a massive influx of folks that had otherwise not sought treatment before. And I think all of that's going to combat stigma. So I think with a typical APN client, a lot of them are high performing executives who are doing really well in life, at least in business, but may not be under the surface functioning really well, right? The stress is getting them, the anxiety, the obligations, trying to balance work, life, and your family can be hard. And I think for everybody coming to APN, they get a unique experience tailored to them that helps them navigate their own personal challenges. So the market is wide. There is pent-up demand. We operate between 85 and 95% occupancy, depending on seasonality. And what I'll say is that's not unique to APN. The market across the country, most well-run providers run in similar ranges. And a lot of it has to do with contracts, which APN has done really well in negotiating great contracts with large MCOs and federal programs and tribes, and being very intentional with the contracts and the people that we bring into our facility, which allows us to continue growing.
Perfect. Thank you for that background. Um, EB-5 specifics here. You've used EB-5 before, so you've got experience in what is an esoteric industry. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and specifically how EB-5 is playing a role in this project?
Yeah, I mean, EB-5 allows us access to capital for growth. I think it's been a great vehicle that we've used in the past successfully. It helped us grow Concerted Care Group in a time where capital markets were constrained, and it really worked well for us. Particularly here, I think in outside of Vail, where we're considered a rural region. However, what's unique about this is not your typical rural area. Homes in the community where this project is located range between $3 million and $25 million. There's over 100,000 people living in this Vail Valley. Just I think 75,000 in Eagle County alone. So this is 2.5 hours outside of Denver, major metropolitan area. Eagle Airport continues to expand. I think they have both domestic and international flights now from 20 different cities, both domestically and internationally. And then Denver International Airport is always in the top three in terms of flight volume in the United States. So we have great access to what is considered a rural region for EB-5 purposes. But from our perspective, when we went to develop this and build this campus and looked at opportunities in Texas and New York and California, Colorado was really underserved from a behavioral health perspective. But also, we started really looking at access. How do our clients come to us? And this specific location really stands out as one that is removed from major metropolitan area, yet it's accessible. And I think that's a unique aspect of this project.
Well, it certainly doesn't, match well with the normal notion of what rural is, looking at these pictures and the pictures of the facility and the location. Is this an unusual find to see something of this level of investment targeting such a unique market, but also being in rural America for EB-5 purposes?
Um, Look, I think that there are a lot of barriers to entry in terms of development for behavioral health. We have faced many challenges over the years in building, over 15 facilities. There is still that NIMBY pushback of communities. We have successfully won and advanced every single project we've started with, and successfully opened all of those facilities across multiple companies now. So I think it is unique to make the type of investment that we've made into our facilities, into the real estate. My background, prior to getting into healthcare and behavioral health specifically, was in real estate development. I developed over 25,000 units of multifamily, low income and affordable housing all across the country. I have a very unique background in land use. So our ability and inclination to own real estate, develop real estate, makes us very unique from a healthcare operator perspective. Many other operators are dependent on a third-party partner really to come in and help them grow their organization, whereas we have that ability internally.
You mentioned phase one, the occupancy levels had, met expectations, maybe even exceeded them. Can you tell us a little bit more about operational performance and things you've learned on this project, this phase that will help you going forward?
Yeah, I think that, the benefit to EB-5 investors and really phase two is this is really just an expansion of the first phase, right? We've been doing that for over 6 years now, successfully, profitably, and getting to a place where we have embedded contracts, we have embedded pipelines, we have embedded infrastructure that supports the growth of the organization, and the pent-up demand that we're seeing. So we're really excited about it. And I think from an operational perspective, we're not starting out at ground zero. This isn't a new operation that someone has to invest in and bet on the team that, hey, will they be successful in doing this? We're already doing it, right? We've been doing it for years. This is an expansion, and as with expansion comes new challenges and growth and things that we will have to roll up our sleeves with, but it's nothing that we haven't done before. Concerted Care Group, the first company, was a very similar expansion with EB-5. We built an adjacent facility, successfully completed that and ramped up operations and rolled into the growth. And it makes it a lot easier when you have the embedded infrastructure that APN does. We have a lot of systems in place that allow us to turn on phase two without recreating the wheel. I think that's the unique opportunity in this.
When you talk about this market, it would seem, privacy is key to healthcare overall, but in this particular field, maybe even more so. How do you market to potential clients? Is there relationships with physicians or healthcare participants? Are there tie-ups with therapies,
Uh,
around the country?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say it's a healthy split between our digital marketing team, which is about 50% of our admissions, and then the other 50% comes from what we call our community relations team, or otherwise known as business development team. We have people all around the country in different markets. They have relationships locally there in those markets with local therapists, psychiatrists, interventionists, as well as businesses and referral sources. If I were just to back up into one of our specialty programs around treating physicians and nurses, we're one of probably 5 programs in the country that does that. We receive physicians and nurses who are mandated to go to treatment because they're struggling. And each state has a local physicians health program here in the United States that is an access point for them to help get them into care. And we're approved with about 40 different states now that we receive active referrals from. So that's one example of places that we get. Within the veterans community, we have relationships with local VA hospitals around the country who actively refer to APN for veterans because we have an in-network contract with them and a specialty program for them. We treat levels of care that the VA itself doesn't largely treat, except for in a handful of locations. So we really act as a support tool for them. But local therapists, psychiatrists, other outpatient facilities actively partner with APN, and we partner with them, right? We want to make sure our clients are successful long term. So while our telehealth program supports a lot of them, there are certain markets and states that we're not active in. We're active in over 30 markets on telehealth within the continental US, but that leaves about 22 that we're not active in, and we need to find them help when they go home because that's what makes the difference. So we're actively referring to them as well as them referring to us.
Terrific. With phase two really hitting stride going into the new year, can you tell us a little bit how it's same or different to phase one in terms of operations and economics, even service lines that are offered?
Yeah, it's funny because with phase one, APN was a concept, right? We had ideas, we had built a lot of facilities before, nothing this large, nothing of this caliber or this high end. But we had a really good business thesis. We'd done a lot of market research. But ultimately, the best opportunity was renovating what was a resort. Inherently, that presents many challenges when you renovate an existing structure. And the unique thing about phase two is we've been able to bring our operating team in and say, all right, what are the challenges that we have with the main lodge, right? What are the things that we inherited from the existing building that now we have a clean slate? We can start all over and say, all right, we did this the best way we could do it within that existing structure. But if we could start all over and build it from scratch, which we're doing with phase two, right? What would you redesign? What would you change? What would improve operations? What would improve the client experience? And overall, I think, phase two is an unbelievable kind of reimagination of the lodge phase one. It takes it to the next level. It's everything that our team has learned over the past 6 years that they like or don't like. We've incorporated that into the design and planning. Jeremy's showing you some renderings here of what phase two will ultimately look and feel like. And we're really excited about it. I think the operating team, at first a little bit hesitant and, thinking that we're taking on a huge new growth tool, which will inevitably bring more work to their plate. They got excited about it because of their ability to really fix some of the challenges that we've had within the physical plant, as well as use their imagination to expand upon what we've started with. Recreating how we deliver ketamine treatment and the group therapy rooms, and just taking this to the next level, which is what I think the whole team has really gotten behind and gotten excited about. And looking at these renderings, there is nothing like this anywhere in the country or probably anywhere in the world. We know the competitive landscape really well, and I think the Lodge phase one right now is one of the nicest options, if not the nicest option for this size facility anywhere in the world. Phase two is a whole nother level.
You mentioned a team a couple of times there. Can you give us a little bit more background on the management and operating teams?
Yeah, this is a large operation. We have over 375 employees around the country, the close to 200, I believe, on campus at the lodge. And it's made up of people similar to myself that have worked in behavioral health for a while that thought we could do things better. Everyone has this shared vision that we can do things better, and we don't have to look at it. While it's important to look at what we've done historically in behavioral health, I think we have to think outside the box. You look at the epidemic that we're in right now with overdose rates at near all-time highs, suicide rates at near all-time highs. You have to be honest with yourselves within the field and say, all right, what are we doing and can we do it better? And I think that this team has really attracted people who have worked within the space but been frustrated by this kind of narrow scope, where APN has a different approach and says, all right, how do we do this differently? How do we do it better? And I think our outcomes really speak to the team. While the facility is an unbelievable tool that supports our clients while they're there and draws them in, it's really all about these folks and the vision that we all share. Just for way of background, part of the advisory board here, we have the former CEO of United Behavioral Health, the largest managed care organization or insurance company in the US. Tom McClellan, who was the drug czar under Obama, which is considered the ONDCP, or Office of National Drug Control Policy. He was the deputy director there. I mean, getting this level of folks. Kyle Westcott was the CFO of the Meadows, which was one of the largest exits in behavioral health. You know, this is a team of people who have been around the behavioral health, world for many decades now, and have belief that we can do better, and we are doing better. Our outcomes speak to it. And we couldn't do it without this type of team.
No, that's a tremendous team, both from an operations and management perspective as well as advisory. I'd imagine assembling a team like that was really designed to assist you in the overall growth of the company going forward. Can you tell us a bit about the strategy there? What's in the APN portfolio today, and what do you think will be in it in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so APN has been strategic in its growth. I think our highest and best value is clearly this campus here in Colorado. It is the most unique thing in behavioral health. It's the largest investment ever made in behavioral health. And for all of those reasons, it really works well. We have started following our clients back and seeing where we're getting concentration in certain markets. Dallas, Fort Worth, for instance. We recently developed a facility there. It is a feeder to the lodge. We do detox, stabilization, residential. It's a slightly cheaper operation there. However, it acts as a great place for clients to start their journey, go to the lodge, and then return back for outpatient services as well. Boulder, Denver is our detox and stabilization point. We don't offer detox at the lodge. So this acts as a natural feeder from the Denver market. We have clients go here, stabilize, and then we have a fleet of SUVs and drivers that are constantly going back and forth from this facility up to the main campus and back. It's about a 2.5 hour drive. So for many of our clients, their journey starts here, and it gives us a flag in the sand in major metropolitan areas, which helps draw people to the lodge campus and then return them back for outpatient services as well, which Denver has. So it really builds out that continuum of care, and APN will continue to grow and put flags in the sand. I think for at least the next 24 months, our focus is the phase two expansion. It is a large undertaking. We are not building any other facilities at this time while we focus on that. But I do expect over the next 5 to 10 years that our growth will continue with the phase two and really doubling the size of this main campus. We inevitably will want to plant more satellite facilities in strategic markets that we find opportunity in. And we've identified many of them right now. But we really want to focus on phase two, develop that project, and really be ready for that next phase of growth.
Terrific. Thank you, Noah. In terms of the project, where are we in terms of construction, and when do you expect that to be completed?
Yeah, we began doing some site work here this just the past several months. We are finishing up the construction documents and the CDs as they're known, and are submitting for our construction permit, which will allow us to start vertical construction in the spring and summer. So we're really excited about that. We have been working on the A&E package for the better part of 18 months. This is a very significant construction project. I don't want to underestimate or not highlight the amount of work that goes into developing something of this size, as well as the expansion component and the interoperability between phase one and phase two, as well as the terrain here. We could have accelerated the A&E earlier in the year, but we really wanted to spend the time with the operating team to get it right, knowing that we were going to run into winter. And it's very expensive to heat the ground and really build through the winter here in Colorado. So we really took the time to focus on the construction drawings, get it right, and be prepared to really go vertical and break ground, in the spring.
So it's quite intentional that timeline, given the climate,
Yeah.
weather, and everything else.
Yeah, and with projects of this scale, which I've worked on, I've developed billions of dollars of real estate in my career. Um, Projects of this scale are always face some sort of delay. I've never worked on a project that is over $100 million that has hit its original target dates, but right now I think we're on a really good path, and expect to be in a position to, we'll be submitting for building permit in January. We've been working with the county all along. We've been working with local utilities, and we're all ready to get this in position to go vertical, in the spring and summer, which is a much better time here in Colorado. So yes, well, I'd say there have been delays in the project early on, which almost every large project faces. Nothing that was significant that drove us to be concerned. But now I think we hit a time in Colorado where we intentionally said, look, let's take the time to get it right.
Well, that certainly seems to be resonating within the EB-5 market. I know there's been a lot of traction there. Can you tell us a bit about how EB-5 investors have come on board, how many is today, and where you see the velocity taking us in the early part of the new year?
Carl, you
Yeah,
want to speak to that?
yeah, sure thing. Thanks, Suresh. So, just as a brief introduction, I'm Carl Vandermeer. I'm with EB-5 Coast to Coast. We're co-managers alongside LCR on this project, and we've been marketing this a little longer than LCR, so probably a little further ahead in terms of our investors. But yeah, to date we've got about 50 investors. This is just as a reminder. This is a $72 million EB-5 raise, so maximum 90 investors. And I'm sure you're seeing this as well, Suresh. I think it's fair to say that the level of interest right now is the highest we've seen. Most of those investors are coming out of the US. So highly confident, that we're going to get this raise done, pretty soon. So I'm not speaking for LCR's pipeline. Not sure what that looks like, but certainly on our side, it's looking very good at the moment.
Carl, I can certainly back that up in terms of market interest and demand. It's true we're getting a lot of demand here in the state from the states itself from EB-5 investors, but globally there's interest as well. It's not just simply an interest in EB-5, it's an interest in rural, and it's an interest in really high quality opportunities in rural EB-5 marketplace, which is not easy to come by. It's just it's not an easy thing to develop those kinds of opportunities to fit both the program and the appetite and interest of the market. So we too are seeing a strong demand for that. I think with project approvals already in place, with investors being approved with their 526 applications. Our expectation, I think it matches yours, is that there will be a lot of velocity in the early part of the new year, especially with construction set to start. So a very exciting set of dynamics for all of us. Noah, about how EB-5 is used and where it is in the project itself, can you take a step back and walk us through a bit about the capital structure of the business?
Yeah, in this capital stack, EB-5 is being brought in as equity, as preferred equity, so it's in first position. And it ultimately, the one thing that we did when we structured this was to be really conservative around capital markets and debt. And the EB-5 equity raise has allowed us to, and we've done this in the past in tougher capital markets. And I think it's hard to read where the larger capital markets are. We're a little bit insulated because we have operating history. We are a proven management team with large exits under our belt. So we have relationships with large institutions and banks and access to capital. But I do think that it's a little bit of an uncertain time right now. And the way that we intentionally approached this was to be conservative, which is really how we approach everything. And the debt component of this is such a small piece. It allows us a lot of flexibility, and it really allowed us the time when we started this. Interest rates were higher. We're watching them come down now. We have term sheets now on the debt. We're taking our time to make the best decision on that because it's the smallest piece, and it's also at the tail end, right? We're expected to deploy all of the EB-5 capital as well as our equity first, which we've been doing. We've deployed, I think, close to $16 million into the project to date. And that will continue to really accelerate here as we get into Q1. We're at the tail end of the construction drawings. Soft costs of this project are, I think, approaching $20 million. So we're really through the really first heavy lift part of this. Our jobs actually get a lot easier as we get into vertical construction. So we're anxious to get to that point. And we will here in the spring. But we're excited because I think we structured this the right way to be conservative for an uncertain time, though we are getting interest rate relief now. And I think we modeled this about 150 to 200 basis points higher on the debt than what we're seeing in the market today. So ultimately, the numbers will get better. We anticipate for us. We anticipate locking in on where we're going to land on the debt here in Q1 and Q2. But we have multiple options, multiple relationships and people who want to finance this for us. But again, the debt component is a very small piece of this project, which is done intentionally.
Well, it's certainly something we've seen as well in a variety of projects, kind of across the board. Anybody seeking senior loans, the timing looks good for the first half of the year where the rates are going to be. They've started to come down, but the velocity of that may very well increase. That's a good thing to see. It is also true that there might be a problem if you don't have other forms of capital to deploy while you're waiting for an ideal situation with the senior loan. You mentioned the capital's there. Can you talk a little bit about how you plan on spending that? The EB-5 capital is coming in, very quickly. Is this something where you're going to be needing to tap into the senior loan anytime soon?
No, the senior loan comes into play really as we get over 50% through construction. So we have another probably 18 months from here to where we start to tap into the senior loan. The EB-5 as well as our equity commitments will go through the first part of construction. We've already deployed into site work. We've already started clearing. So technically, construction has begun. Though we don't have our permit to go vertical, we do have site work and demolition permits and a whole lot of things that go on with moving utilities on a project of this nature, as well as bulk O2 oxygen chambers and sites. So there is a lot of activity ongoing today that falls into that. But we have plenty of capacity to continue to develop this, as well as I think because we size the debt so small, if EB-5 were ever to come up short, which based on all the velocity that we're seeing from you guys, we anticipate this raise probably closing out in the next 60 or 90 days here. I think you probably agree with that, but we have the ability to raise significantly more debt for this project if we wanted to. We certainly at this point don't see the need to.
Terrific. The financial highlights of phase one versus expectations with phase two. Do you think there'll be similar margins tied to both of those phases? Where do you see improvements and where do you see significant differences between expectations?
Yeah, what I would say is I think phase two really benefits from the lessons learned on phase one, right? Our experience is it's 2 to 3 years to stabilize new assets in behavioral health, from date you turn on till stabilization. It can be done in 18 months, but I think a 2-year horizon is a realistic expectation for anything of scale. That being said, a lot of the lessons learned, and that's about what we did it in with phase one, was about 2 years. However, we didn't have the benefit of having all of the technology of the EMR, of the Salesforce infrastructure, of the Power BI systems and the analytics that we have today tied into the general ledger. Phase two is stepping into a functioning marketing team, a functioning contact center, and be able to share those resources. It's stepping into contracts. It's stepping into all these things that phase one didn't have. So they really benefit from that. And it's hard for me, again, we are conservative. We're never going to tell you we're going to stabilize it in a year, though we might. I think our approach is always it's still going to take 2 years no matter what. And that's what we're going to tell investors, though I would be very surprised if we can't do it far faster, given everything that we've done to date, all the infrastructure that's in place for phase two to really tap into.
So Noah, am I interpreting it correctly that once you achieve that sort of steady state, that is the expectation when profitability kind of hits the project, that maybe, you know, two years roughly, maybe a bit earlier, but maybe a bit later than that. That's the sort of standard.
Yeah, I think we get to break even far sooner than that. But profitability comes with driving census and you're talking about doubling the size of our campus and we want to be conservative. So we've built ourselves enough ramp and time to do that. But that's right. Profitability we believe is 2 years from kickoff. And I think ultimately that's the right approach. I think if you want to drive outcomes and do this the right way and build a business that ultimately is really attractive for investors, you have to do both things correctly. Sure, we could drive profitability and stabilize it in far less time. Would I be delivering the same world-class product? Probably not, right? We take our time to recruit the right team members. We want to make sure that they fit into the APN DNA. So it's a very methodical approach. It's the right approach. We have experience in not only building facilities, building teams, but also exiting and selling the business to private equity. And the reality is to do it right, it takes time. I'd love if anyone's promising to do things in a really short horizon, ultimately, that's always what draws me concern as an investor.
Well, I think that that concerns a lot of folks, no doubt the EP5 community as well. Um, you know, you've lined up good equity investors, you've lined up good EP5 investors. They're big believers in your background, the project, the need, and the business plan. But as you just now mentioned, the importance about the exit strategy. How should EB-5 investors see that strategy? What comfort should they take in the approach you all are taking?
Yeah, I think the EB-5 investors really benefit from all of the other assets that we've developed, the infrastructure, and really we do have a desire to sell this business. We love what we're doing, we love building it, but our own capital invested in this. We've invested over $100 million to date in APN and continue to invest in it. So we do want to return our investment as well. We have patient capital. We've done this before. Many of our investors have invested in our last company and are now invested in this. And we do have a horizon over the next 5 years to take this to exit. I believe that phase two really benefits from kind of being at the tail end, right? While I think we'll probably develop a handful of smaller satellites after we develop phase two. I think we're nearing kind of the 75% mark on the scale of this company, which leads us to a place of looking at, the exit timeline and horizon.
So, talk to me a little bit about what the milestones were that triggered the exits on phase one, and do you think that is similar or dissimilar to expectations on phase two?
Well, with phase, I think you mean Concerted Care Group, my prior company.
Correct.
Yeah. So with Concerted Care Group, we were similarly kind of in a development cycle where we continued to grow. Once we saw profitability within our first facility, we started to expand. We used EB-5 capital to do that. And ultimately, we kind of timed it out really well within the markets. Granted, we sold that business during COVID, which was an interesting time to transact. We sold that at north of a 15 multiple. Our investors did really well. All of our EB-5 investors qualified and got what they had bargained for in terms of the USCIS process as well as their financial returns. So, we're very confident in our ability to replicate that here. This APN has developed a reputation that we get calls from private equity every week. There is pent-up demand in this space. There is not a lot of great product in this space, whereas maybe in multifamily, a building is a building, and there's plenty of opportunities for good buildings out there. In behavioral health, there is a very limited, finite amount of product, and there is a limited and finite, even further amount of good product. And APN is at the very top of that. So I think we certainly continue to build our reputation. Phase two undoubtedly changes this company and puts us way out in front of other people, particularly with plant-based medicine. I don't know anywhere in the country where investors or foreign investors have an opportunity to invest into plant-based medicine. This is the wave of the future for behavioral health. This facility will be ground zero for it. So this is a very unique opportunity, and I think we're positioned really well for an exit here in the horizon.
No, I would agree with the description of it being unique. I think it's unique in a lot of ways. I think one of the aspects of the project that has really kind of driven interest, certainly drove a lot of questions early on, but once the understanding was in place, the interest was there, and that created a lot of investor velocity. Was the issue around optionality for the investors on an exit, having that put option at the end of 5 years. Could you describe how that works, and what are your
Yeah,
expectations on how the investors
Carl,
will see it?
Carl, do you want to explain the exit put option for the investors?
Sure. There is the way it works from a in practice effectively is that we, as the co-managers of the project, will approach all the investors prior to June of 2029, and and then basically ask individual investors whether they want to exit at the put date or remain invested. I guess an option, a reason you'd want to remain invested is if there's a potential acquisition, in the foreseeable future. If, however, you decide you want to exit at the put date, that is up to the individual investor to decide. And then we, as the manager of the NCE, will effectively exercise that put option on behalf of investors. I think the company, All Points North, has the option to defer that for up to a year through June of 2030. But that is the latest date then that investors will exit.
Yep. And I think that the way that came about was really EB-5 Worldwide negotiating on behalf of the investors and looking at challenges that other deals had and saying, all right, how do we solve that? How do we give them the ability to make sure they have a date certain that they could get their capital returned? And we were okay with it. The reality is we want all of our investors to do well. We have a long track record of deploying capital and EB-5 capital and satisfying those obligations. And it was a reasonable request that I believe EB-5 made, and we were able to come to terms on.
Terrific. Thank you, gentlemen, for that. Thing is certainly, at LCR, we're seeing interest in that particular provision in the offering. I won't call it unique because others have certainly have that capability, but the way it's been designed with APN and as you said, the date certain aspect of it, I think has really resonated with the EB-5 market. Again, I want to specify that the interest isn't something that's new. There's been a lot of interest in this space for some time, but as it relates to this specific project, I think we've got more than, between Carl's organization and mine, more than 50 already in. And with 90 slots left, no, as you said, 60 to 90 days is your expectation. That's our expectation as well, as for it to be fully subscribed. One of the things that we often encourage our investors to do, or prospective investors, is to go visit project sites, go visit with management, boots on the ground, as it were. This being, December going into January, the weather's not necessarily the easiest to accommodate. Noah, would you have a recommendation what people might want to do, coupled with the fact that it is being sold very quickly?
Yeah, look, we've always been open and encourage people to come out and tour and see the existing main lodge and the adjacent campus and everything that we're doing. If you can fly into Denver or into Eagle Airport, come take a look and see. You'll find, I think, a very unique offering here, and an unbelievable team and infrastructure, and give you probably that surety that this is the right investment for you if you're able to make the trip out. Um, Unfortunately for Colorado, they don't have as much snow as they'd like right now, this time of year. So skiing isn't as good as it typically is, but that may make for easier travel for you. But certainly, as you guys get into the new year here, I highly recommend coming out soon. I know I've seen a lot of investors from EB-5 out here over the past couple months, and with the increasing investors coming into the deal. So we welcome anyone that wants to come tour and meet us.
Terrific. Thank you, Noah.
Yeah.
We're reaching the top of the hour here. Noah, is there anything else you'd like to close with that we haven't touched upon in the past hour?
No, I want to say, I welcome everyone from the EB-5 community. It's something that I've believed in personally, with family and friends who have accessed the program, and I think it's an unbelievable way for people to legally enter the U.S. and we're really supportive of that. Highly encourage you guys to do your diligence on all the deals and people that you're looking at investing in, and we certainly appreciate the support of anyone that invests in us. We have a lot of our own capital deployed here. We treat your capital as if it's our own. And we have a long track record of doing that. And if you guys think this is the right project for you, we welcome you.
Terrific, terrific. Well, let me just say my appreciation for Carl, your organization, EB-5 Coast to Coast, a terrific partner with us. And Noah, we're very honored to be partnering with you on this. We look forward to working with on this project and others in the future. To our prospective investors and our current investors, do reach out if you've got questions. Do reach out if you'd like to know more about potentially visiting a site. And certainly, Carl and I are here to answer questions, not just about this particular project, but as EB-5 as a whole and our individual organizations. Appreciate everyone tuning in for today.
Thank you guys. Have a great holiday.
Thank you, Noah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.